They left an Apache woman in the snow to die. A cowboy built a fire. Two broken souls found love.
Subscribe to Wild Sky Stories. Turn on the bell icon so you can do not miss any new video.
The winter of 1878 came down upon the Arizona territory like a punishment from the heavens. Snow fell in sheets across the high desert, covering the red earth in white silence, and the wind howled through the canyons like the crying of lost souls. Elias Thorne had been riding for 3 days when he saw her. She was walking through the snow, her feet wrapped in torn cloth, her body covered only in a thin blanket that the wind kept trying to steal from her shoulders. Her black hair was loose and wild, tangled with ice, and even from 50 yards away, Elias could see she was near death. He pulled his horse to a stop, his breath fogging in the frozen air, and watched her struggle forward through the drifts. She fell once, then twice, and each time she rose again with a determination that made something twist painfully in his chest. Elias had spent 10 years trying not to care about anything or anyone. After his wife and daughter died of fever back in Missouri, he had ridden west to escape the memories, to find a place where his heart could stay frozen and safe. He worked cattle, mended fences, and spoke to no one unless necessity demanded it. But watching this woman fight against the cold, against death itself, he felt something crack inside the ice around his heart. He urged his horse forward. She heard him coming and turned, and even through the exhaustion and the cold, her dark eyes blazed with defiance. She was Apache, he could see that now, and she reached beneath her blanket and pulled out a small knife, holding it before her with a hand that shook from cold and weakness. "I will not go back," she said in English, her voice rough and broken. "Kill me here if you must, but I will not go back." Elias stopped his horse 10 feet from her, and slowly raised his hands to show he meant no harm. "I am not here to take you anywhere," he said quietly. "I am here because you are going to die if you stay in this cold." She studied him with those fierce eyes, looking for the lie, looking for the trap. Why would you care if an Apache woman dies? It was a fair question. Elias had met plenty of men who would have ridden past her without a second glance, or worse, who would have done her harm. The hatred between whites and Apaches ran deep and bloody in this territory. "I do not know why I care," he admitted honestly. "I only know that I do." The knife wavered in her hand. Her legs were giving out beneath her, and Elias could see the blue tinge to her lips, the violent shaking that meant her body was losing its battle against the cold. "What do you choose? A." Elias dismounts slowly and offers her his coat, risking that she might attack him with the knife. "B." Elias stays on his horse and tells her about the abandoned cabin 1/2 mile away, offering to lead her there. "C." Elias extends his hand from horseback and asks her to trust him. Elias made his choice. He swung down from his saddle slowly, keeping his movements calm and unthreatening, and he unbuttoned his heavy wool coat. The cold bit into him immediately, cutting through his shirt like teeth, but he ignored it as he held the coat out to her. "Take it," he said. "Please." Her eyes widened with something like shock. No one had shown her kindness in a very long time, he realized. Whatever had happened to her, whatever had driven her out into this storm, it had stripped away her faith in human mercy. "Why?" she whispered. "Because you are cold," he said simply, "and I have a coat. That is reason enough." The knife slipped from her fingers and disappeared into the snow. She reached for the coat with hands that were clumsy and frozen, and Elias stepped forward and wrapped it around her shoulders himself. She was so cold that touching her was like touching winter itself. "There is a cabin," he said, 1/2 mile from here. "I found it yesterday, abandoned but solid. I have supplies. I can build a fire. Will you come with me?" She looked up at him, and for a moment, the fierce warrior in her eyes softened into something vulnerable and young. She could not have been more than 25 years old, he thought. Too young to die in the snow. Too young to carry such pain in her eyes. "Yes," she said, "I will come." He helped her onto his horse and climbed up behind her, wrapping his arms around her to keep her from falling. She was stiff against him at first, every muscle tense with distrust, but as they rode through the snow, the heat of his body began to seep into hers, and gradually she relaxed against his chest. "What is your name?" he asked. "Nalin," she said. "It means maiden girl. My mother gave it to me because I was born in the spring when the flowers bloomed." "Nalin," he repeated, and the name felt like poetry on his tongue. "I am Elias." "Elias," she said, testing the sound. "It is a good name, strong." They reached the cabin as the sun began to set, painting the snow in shades of pink and gold. Elias helped Nalin down from the horse and led her inside, where the remains of his fire from the night before still smoldered in the stone hearth. He worked quickly, adding kindling and dried wood until the flames grew strong and hot, filling the small cabin with warmth and dancing light. He spread blankets near the fire and guided Nalin to sit upon them. Then he unwrapped the frozen cloth from her feet and hissed at what he saw. Her feet were damaged by the cold, the skin red and angry. She would lose toes if he did not act. Quickly, he filled a pot with snow and hung it over the fire to warm, and while he waited, he rubbed her feet gently between his hands, trying to bring the blood back to the surface. "You do not have to do this," Nalin said, watching him with those dark, wondering eyes. "You do not know me. You owe me nothing. I know that you are brave." Elias said, "I know that you walked through a storm that would have killed most men. I know that you chose death over whatever it was you were running from. That tells me everything I need to know about who you are." A tear slipped down her cheek, cutting a warm trail through the cold on her skin. "They sent me away," she said quietly. "The reservation. They said I caused trouble because I would not let the soldiers touch me. They said I was too wild to be civilized. So they put me outside the fence and told me to walk." Rage bloomed in Elias's chest, hot and terrible. He had heard stories about the reservations, about the cruelty and the starvation and the broken promises, but hearing it from her lips, seeing the evidence of it in her frozen feet and her haunted eyes, made it real in a way that sickened him. "They were wrong," he said fiercely. "You are not too wild. You are exactly as you should be, free, untamed, beautiful." She stared at him as if he had spoken in a language she did not understand. Beautiful. When had anyone last called her beautiful? When had anyone last looked at her and seen something precious rather than something to be conquered or destroyed? "What do you choose?" Nalin reaches out and touches Elias's face, needing to know if he is real. "B. Nalin tells Elias about her life before the reservation, sharing her story with him. "C. Nalin asks Elias why he is so kind when the world has been so cruel." Slowly, hesitantly, Nalin reached out and touched Elias's face. Her fingers were still cold and he shivered at her touch, but he did not pull away. He stayed perfectly still as she traced the line of his jaw, the curve of his cheekbone, the ridge of his brow. "Are you real?" she whispered. "Or have I died in the snow and gone to the spirit world?" "I am real," he said, and his voice was rough with emotion. "I am as real as the fire and the snow and the beating of your heart." "Then why?" she asked. "Why do you treat me as if I matter? Your people hate my people. We have killed each other for generations. Why do you look at me as if I am worth saving?" Elias caught her hand and held it against his chest over his heart. "Because I have been dead inside for a very long time," he said. "And when I saw you fighting against the storm, refusing to give up even when everything was against you, I felt something come alive in me again. You reminded me that there are still things worth fighting for." "What happened to you?" she asked. "What made you dead inside?" And so he told her. He told her about Sarah and little Emma, about the fever that took them both within a week of each other, about standing at their graves and feeling his soul crack into pieces. He told her about riding west, about the years of loneliness and silence, about building walls around his heart so high and thick that he thought nothing would ever breach them. "But you breached them," he said. "In one moment, in one look, you breached them all." Nalin's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were different. These were tears of connection, of recognition, of two broken souls finding each other in the wilderness. I lost my family too, she said. When I was 15, the soldiers came to our village, and when they left, I was alone. I survived because my mother hid me in a cave and told me not to come out until the sounds stopped. When I came out, everyone was gone. My mother, my father, my little brothers. Everyone. I am sorry, Elias said, and the words felt inadequate, but he meant them with every fiber of his being. I've been alone for 10 years, Nalin said. I have trusted no one. I have loved no one. I have let no one close to me because everyone I loved was taken from me. But tonight, in this cabin, with you, I feel something I have not felt in so long. What do you feel? He asked. Safe, she said. I feel safe. He pulled her into his arms then, gently giving her every opportunity to pull away. But she did not pull away. She melted into his embrace, her head against his shoulder, her arms wrapping around him as if he were an anchor in a storm. They sat like that for a long time, holding each other before the fire, letting the warmth seep into their bodies and their hearts. Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside the cabin there was peace. As the night deepened, Elias made soup from the supplies in his pack, and they ate together in comfortable silence. He cleaned and bandaged her feet, and she watched him work with an expression of wonder and gratitude that made his heart ache. You have gentle hands, she said. For a man who works with horses and cattle, you have very gentle hands. I was not always a cowboy, he said. I was a school teacher once, back in Missouri. I taught children to read and write. Sarah always said I had the patience of a saint. Sarah was your wife? Yes. Tell me about her. Tell me about Emma. And so he did. He told her about Sarah's laugh, which sounded like bells. He told her about Emma's fascination with butterflies, how she would chase them through the meadow with her arms outstretched. He told her about the life they had built together, small and simple and full of love. For the first time in 10 years, talking about them did not feel like pressing on a wound. It felt like honorable, oaring them, like giving them life again through memory and story. They would want you to be happy, Nalin said when he finished. They would not want you to be dead inside. I know, he said. I think I am beginning to understand that now. What do you choose? A. Elias asks Nalin to stay with him when the storm passes. B. Nalin tells Elias that she wants to start a new life and asks if he will help her. C. They make a plan together for what comes next, building a future side by side. As the fire crackled and the wind howled outside, Elias took a deep breath and spoke the words that had been building in his heart all evening. When the storm passes, he said, I do not want you to go. I know we have only just met. I know that this is sudden and probably foolish, but I have felt more alive in these few hours with you than I have felt in 10 years, and I cannot bear the thought of watching you walk away. Nalin looked at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she smiled, and it was like watching the sun rise over the mountains. I have nowhere to go, she said. They took everything from me. My land, my people, my home. I have been walking without destination, without hope, without any reason to keep going. But tonight, you gave me a reason. What reason? He asked. You, she said simply. You are my reason. He kissed her then, softly, tentatively, giving her every chance to pull away. But instead, she kissed him back, and in that kiss was all the loneliness and the pain and the hope that they had both been carrying for so long. When they finally pulled apart, they were both breathing hard, and there were tears on both their faces. I love you, Elias said, and the words surprised him because he had not planned to say them, but they were true. They were the truest words he had ever spoken. I know it is too soon. I know it does not sense. But I love you, Nalin. I love you too, she whispered. I did not think I was capable of it anymore. I thought that part of me had died with my family, but you brought it back to life. You built a fire in my heart when I was freezing to death inside. They held each other through the night, and when the sun rose the next morning, the storm had passed. The world outside was white and clean and new, and somehow that felt right. They rode out together on Elias's horse, heading west toward California, where they had heard that people did not ask too many questions about where you came from or who you used to be. They had nothing but the clothes on their backs and the love in their hearts, but somehow that felt like more than enough. Along the way, they built their story together. They found work on a ranch where the owner did not care that Elias had married an Apache woman. They built a small house on a hill overlooking a valley of wildflowers. They planted a garden and raised horses and welcomed a daughter whom they named Hope. And every night, no matter how hot the summer or how mild the winter, Elias built a fire in their hearth. It was a ritual, a reminder, a promise. He built the fire for her, just as he had on that first night, because that fire had been the beginning of everything. They sent the Apache woman into the cold, expecting her to die, but instead she found a cowboy with gentle hands and a broken heart, and together they built something that the cold could never touch. They built a home, they built a family, they built a love that would last forever, and on quiet evenings, when the sun set over their valley and painted the sky in shades of fire and gold, they would sit together on their porch and remember the storm that had brought them together. "Thank you," Nalin would say, every single time. "For what?" Elias would ask, every sing. "La time. For building the fire," she would answer, "for saving my life." And every single time he would take her hand and kiss it and say, "No, my love, you saved mine."